we are going to review databases, and review is a good thing because the more you roll around in something, the more it sticks to you, right? Like just ask any dog, we already know that. The more you roll around in something, the more it sticks to you. So we're going to review databases just to make sure that we're learning what databases are. And the first thing we're going to look at is the puzzle, right? So we had this puzzle here. And this puzzle, we would ask ourselves questions like, who are the people who have rented Die Hard? And we would look here for this group of information about movies, which we call a table. We look to this table here and we see Die Hard has movie ID 1. And then we look to our rental transaction table and we see movie ID right here. And here's movie ID 1 and here's movie ID 1. And it was rented by customer ID 2 and customer ID 1. So customer ID 2 is Tom, customer ID 1 is John. So Tom and John have rented Die Hard. That's what our data tells us. And so this was the puzzle that we used to explain how we could create relationships between tables. And that's really the foundation for a relational database. And the first thing you do when you build a database is you have to kind of figure out what data do I want to gather. And then you group that data into like categories. So all the customer data, right, that would be one category. All the movies data, all the data about movies, right, that would be another category. And then all the data about rental transactions, that would be a third category. And those categories become tables. So if I wanted to keep track of a customer's phone number, that's going to go into the customers table. If I wanted to keep track of the rating on a movie, whether it's G, PG, PG-13, or R, that would go into the movies table, right? If I wanted to keep track of the date that a movie was rented, that would go into the rentals table. So that's the first step in creating a database. And then once you've kind of thought about which data you want to gather, and then you've categorized that data into similar groups like customers, movies, rentals, then you go create your tables. And so you go into Access and you go Create, and you choose Create Table. And when you choose Create a Table, I'm going to I just went into Design View. I want to create a table. Yeah, I don't like that view. Go into Datasheet View. No, go into Design View. Yeah, that's the one I want. Yeah, okay, I was right in the right place the first time. So when you create a table, you have to create the fields. What fields, what kind of data do you want to capture? And so there's one field for each piece of data. So I'm going to have a customer ID, and then I'd have a first name, right? And then I'd have a last name. And I'm putting a C in front of each field because that's a coding convention, which will allow me to identify that this comes from the customers table. So that's how I'd create. That's how I'd create a table. I'd create the fields. And then once I had the fields, I could enter data in each of the fields. And that's how I create my table. So I create a table for customers. I can create a table for movies. I create a table for rentals. And in rentals, all we're storing here is which customer, like by ID, rented which movie. And we just store their ID. We don't want to store their name, right? Because every customer has a unique ID. Every customer's got a unique ID, right? And every movie has a unique ID. And if we store that unique ID for each customer in each movie, we know customer 1 rented movie 6. So it's exactly the same thing that was going on here. Customer 1, right, rented actually in this example, movie 1. There we go. So that's creating our tables. We create the fields, then we populate the tables with data, and then we have to tell the database how those tables are related. So we create our database relationships, our table relationships, and we say, hey, in the customers table, this field customer ID, that's the same number that we're using here in the rental table, right? We're storing customer ID there, so we connect those two, and that's our relationships. And finally, once that's all done, we could create a query. And a query is where we ask a question of the database. And so here we've created a query. If we go and we look at this query, so I'm going to change my view to Design View, we can see that here I'm saying from the customers table, give me the first name field, and from the movies table, here's table, movies, give me the field, movie name, right? So I'm saying give me those fields. And then when I run this query, go back to Datasheet View, it tells me which customer rented which movie. All right, so that's the basics of creating a database. And let's see, what else is there? The puzzle, data hierarchy. So the data hierarchy was that a database is made up of tables, right? A database is made up of tables. Tables are made up of records. Records are made up of fields, and fields are made up of characters. So database is made of tables. Tables are made of records. So here's a table, and this table is made of records, right? That's what's in each table. And then records are made of fields. So here are the fields. Whoops. Here are the fields. Right? So each record has this field, has this field, and has this field. And then fields are made of the characters, right? So I've entered characters into this field to store the name Montana. So that's the data hierarchy. You need a key field. So the key field is this number here. It's the unique ID. It's the key to making relational databases work, to being able to relate the information in this table to the rental transactions to the information in this table. The key field allows us to relate that, right? So here we can see, what did Jose rent? Jose has rented these 2 transactions because that's his customer ID there, customer ID 3, Jose. He's rented movie ID 4 and 3, which would be Cold Mountain and First Blood. So that's the key fields. We saw how to create tables. We've seen relationships. Referential integrity just means that, you know, if we're referring to customer ID here, I can't delete this record, right? Because now, you know, if I'm like, hey, customer 3 rented what? There's no customer 3. That reference no longer has integrity. So referential integrity means once we've used a record in some sort of a reference, we can't delete that record. That's referential integrity. Queries, asking questions of the database. Data integrity means that, you know, data integrity means that when I do ask a question of the database, right, that I know that I'm getting all of the data in its entirety. So if I say, hey, show me all of the rental transactions forever for this business, here they are, right? And if something didn't have integrity, some records would be missing, and then that data would no longer have integrity. And so an example of that, which I gave earlier, was like realtors database, where sometimes people enter Fresno, sometimes they enter Fursno, sometimes they enter Fredno, no S, right? And then you say, show me everything for Fresno. Well, you miss all of the records where somebody had misspellings. And that data wouldn't have integrity then because you wouldn't see all of the transactions. Data validation is the process of making sure that whatever data somebody enters into a database or a form, that it's valid. And so one type of data validation that you often see is when you create a password, they ask you to, you know, retype your password, and then they check to make sure that you've typed it twice the right way. So that's validating to make sure you haven't made a mistake typing your password. Or data validation could also be like, you know, if we ask you to enter your phone number and you enter letters, we could say, no, you have to enter numbers. You can't enter letters. So that would be another example of data validation. And data warehouses and data mining. Data warehouse is just the repository where all data for an organization is kept. Whereas in a database, you might only have a couple of years of transactional data showing like this is what's occurred in the last 3 years, so we keep that in the operating database. But everything, all the data that we've ever had would be in the data warehouse. And data mining is going and looking for valuable information in that data. And data is becoming like the biggest, newest thing. One of the cutting edges in technology right now. What can you do with data? And I saw a super interesting article. My dad gave it to me. I'm actually going to go grab it and show it to you. All right, here it is. And it's from Scientific American, October 2013, How Big Data Can Transform Society for the Better. And so this article really looks at like the digital traces we leave behind each day reveal more about us than we know. This could become a privacy nightmare, or it could be the foundation of a healthier, more prosperous world. And this picture here is kind of interesting. I can't bring it up. But those little icons there above people's heads say things like, web and phone records suggest dissatisfaction with physician. According to cell phone GPS data, walks 5.7 miles per day. Travels a mile out of way to work each day. Just applied for 7th credit card. Recent shift in text messaging pattern. New girlfriend likely. Right? So like just all the things we could see from data. So I'm going to pause. You can pause this this video right here, and you could read this little highlight right there, and then you could you know, maybe find this article at the library or go buy this issue. if you're interested in it. And then also take a look at this right here, which gives a little synopsis of that. More in this article, how exactly is big data going to change the world? Awesome. Is that on Facebook? It's a video. And are we on Facebook? We're not on Facebook, or on YouTube is what I'm actually trying to say. And let me see if we could copy that. Control C, T. We'll go to YouTube, and we'll throw that in there. No, it doesn't come up. Anyhow, that's what I have to say about that data mining, and it's a revolutionary, cutting new edge of computer science and computer technology. And if you wanted to get involved with it, you'll have unlimited career potential. It's a really great field to go into, just understanding and interpreting data. And one tool that you'll certainly want to know about is a tool called Tableau software, which we've already looked at. So you can come here and watch the video about Tableau software, which is, see Tableau in action right there. And if you haven't watched that already, that's a great one to check out. All right, so that's a little bit of a review about databases. And databases are incredibly important for the web, because without them, the web would not be what it is today. Databases are the back end of the web and pretty much the revolution of what's going on with computers, how they're changing the world, just being able to store so much data and so much information. That's databases.